Hi guys, so this is going to be a one take, pretty much, hopefully just a one take guide into how the MIA Vacation and Schedule Optimizer add-on works. So let's take a look here. So first let's look at vacation settings. Here we can see that there are three basic options. The first one is run schedule optimization once daily on profile load. If you enable this, it will simply run on startup once a day. So in that that ensures that everything stays in sync with your desired schedule. I'll go into a little bit about that in a moment here. So the second one is balance daily review count off deck level or profile level. Off simply, and I'm going to show you what each of them does in a moment after I talk about the algorithm itself. Okay, so off simply means that it will only move cards if they conflict with your rest schedule, which includes your weekend schedule, and your vacation schedule. So they will only move cards if they conflict, which can lead to pileups, as we'll see in a moment. Deck level means it optimizes for an even amount of reps for each deck, which may lead to overall more reps than if you were going to use, for example, profile level, which optimizes for an even number of reps per day, which will lead to the lowest overall rep count um, each day at the profile level. So this will lead to the lowest total rep count, but it may lead to weird things, or not weird things, I mean just expected things, but perhaps undesirable outcomes, like maybe say you have a kanji deck and a sentence deck. Your kanji deck, maybe you only have a few reps one day, or say you only have, say normally you have 10 reps. One day maybe you only have two reps because it's serving to optimize the entire profile's reps. Whereas at the deck level, if you have usually about 10 reps, it'll stay there, and then your sentence deck will be optimized for its for the lowest possible rep count um, that it can have as well. So it'll be, and that might be a total higher than if you had it set to profile level. And maintain ease at 250. Now this add-on is actually not compatible with the reset ease add-on, and that's because when the algorithm runs, what it actually does is check back on the previous reps information. It will take the previous reps ease factor when that rep happened, which means that, what can I say? Yeah, it will restore the ease factor to that previous value, and that's because of how Anki kind of works. Whereas the reset ease add-on will only update it for each card. It doesn't go into the rep information and reset that ease to 250. Um, I mean, this is too much detail, and it's difficult to really explain without actually showing you, and I'm not going to do that. So if you really want to know how it works, you can ask a question on Discord, and I can show you. But anyways, if you click this, it will make sure that it maintains these at 250%, while at the same time honoring the ease factor that was used during the last rep. Even if that wasn't 250, that it will honor that ease factor and then set the next ease factor to 250. That way it makes sure that it schedules things according to how they were scheduled on their last rep, while at the same time making sure that at the next possible, or the next rep that will come after that, the after the algorithm was run, that the card will be repped at 250%. Okay, guys. So yeah, let's actually take a look here. So let's now this is just someone's deck from the server. I don't know whose this is. And thank you for it. And we will be using it for uh, demonstrating the add-on. So let's take a look here. So we can go to browse here. Let's take a look. Okay. Now, if we go to whole collection, actually we don't want to go to whole collection. I'm going to go to this kanji deck here. And maybe let's even pull out the E's. So we can see the cards, E's. There are various E's here, as we can see. So we're not going to mess with that yet, but it will be useful to note for later when I show you the reset E's um, situation. Now this deck has actually already been optimized, but I can show you. Wow, that's actually not ideal, huh? Well, we can. Let's go in here, browse, and unsuspend some cards from this deck starting today, and then we can take a look. So where are we here? Unsuspend the cards going forward in this other deck, and then we can take a look at what happens. Actually, we want to be. Okay. Control J to unsuspend. Now those are unsuspended, and if we resume now, we can see that. Oh, did I unsuspend the cards that were already due? That were due previous to today? I've been. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It seems that I did. I didn't go. I wanted 12 instead of 102. There we go. Okay. Now let's take a look. Okay, yeah, that's better. Okay, so let's take a look at this deck rather than the other deck. So we load this up. We can see that um, there there are various peaks and valleys in the actual reps. Now if we optimize it, so we can go to MIA optimize schedule, and then let's take a look at it now. We can see that the reps have been evened out. So each day you have about the same reps, correct? And then let's take a look at, actually let's save this. So this, we can see that this is at deck level optimization. So what I'm going to do is actually snipping tool, because snipping tool goes ahead and allows you to actually view the picture very easily after taking it. So there is the old optimization. Now we're going to go into optimize, I don't know, vacation settings, and now we're going to set it to profile level, and then let's undo the previous optimization and then re-optimize it with the new settings. See, it's a profile level. We're going to re-optimize it, and then let's take a look. And I'm going to go into more detail about how it actually is optimizing it in a moment here. So we can see now that it's quite different than it was before. Do you see? So now the profile has been optimized for total reps per day. So let's look, if we look at the collection level. See, it's very even at the collection level, but the deck is not even, because it's what it's doing is optimizing the total number of reps per day rather than at the deck level. So it's up to you which one you use. The profile level will give you slightly less daily reps, but it will also lead to some peaks and valleys when it comes to individual decks. Okay, so we can go ahead, and I prefer deck level optimization personally, so we're going to change it back, and we're going to keep it there for the rest of the demonstration here. Now, let's go ahead and undo it again. Actually, not undo it. So this is after we have actually. Let's go to whole collection. Okay, now this is after we have actually optimized ones. You can see that some cards have their E's below, at 130 even. That's pretty bad. So um, we can see that they haven't been changed, but let's go into excuse me guys, I've had had the flu for a couple weeks, so I'm still like not fully over it yet, so I apologize for both being a little bit slow and my voice being a little bit different. So let's look at what happens when we set the maintain ease value and then optimize. Let's undo it first and then optimize again. And now we can see every card's ease is at 250 Some cards E's are above that, but that's because they were already above that. Um, and every card, actually, I think even those will be reset. Yeah, those should be reset as well. Are they currently being Oh, I see why. Um, Yeah, guys, it will reset these cards ease as well, but only once it's within a year. The add-on actually only reschedules a year out from the current date because you don't really need to reschedule before that. So any card, yeah, that's important to say. Any card that's within a year of the current date will be rescheduled. That's just for optimization purposes, just to be faster. You know, it'll be slightly faster if it's not optimizing cards that fall over a year from now anyways, so it only optimizes cards that fall within a year from now. So eventually these cards will fall within that, and their ease will also be reset to 250. Now you can see around here, you see from this point they're not being reset. See, because it's over a year from now. But every card that's within a year has been reset. Yeah, that's what it is. There's a lot that went into it. I actually, sometimes other coders will probably know what I'm talking about, and it's kind of sometimes hard to keep on top of even something you've coded yourself because there's quite a bit to it. But yeah, so that's how that works. I almost forgot to mention it. All right, so now let's talk about a little bit how the actual algorithm does work. And I think the best way to do it probably would be to set up an actual vacation and then show you how it works in the context of a vacation. But before we do that, one other thing that I should explain is that um, well, I guess it would be within the context of explaining how the actual rescheduling and optimizing works. So what happens, guys, is when the optimization algorithm runs, it goes through all of your cards that are either in the review queue or learning queue. So any card with an interval, pretty much, is going to go through them, and first it's going to check make sure they're not suspended. If they're suspended, it ignores them. If they are in the filter deck, it also ignores them. So if you want the algorithm to be applied to cards in the filter deck, make sure to empty the filter deck first, run the optimizer, and then refill the filter deck. Now, what was I to say? So yeah, it ignores those cards first of all. Then it's going to take. Now it oh yeah, this is important to say as well. It's going to take first learning cards. Learning cards, and then it's going to take them with the lowest interval. So cards with the lowest interval, or like the shortest interval I should say, the shortest interval are scheduled first because they have higher priority, right? Like you're more likely to forget cards that you just started studying. So it's important that they're rescheduled first. And how cards in the learning queue are dealt with is that their exact due date from before is going to be given um, is going to be given every time. It's not going to apply any sort of range because Anki doesn't apply any sort of range to those particular cards either. So learning cards are just treated exactly as Anki would, and they're given an exact due time. Okay, and then they will only be changed if they actually collide, if their due time collides with a rest day, and I'll talk about that in in a moment. Okay, and then it also does this that same. It treats failed cards in the same way. If a card has been failed on its previous rep, it's actually given an exact date. It's not given a range. So for failed cards, um, for example, if you set your let's look in the options here. there is the lapse. So if you set your new interval on lapse to something like 50%, it would give you 50%. So if a card had an interval of 30 days, it will give you an interval of 15 days. So what we do, I mean, what I've decided to do is to um, take that and add, depending on, man, it's pretty dense. Okay, so what happens is, in order to optimize those cards that are failed, um, we've decided to apply the same algorithm as Anki applies to regular cards to that particular failed cards um, failed cards interval. So instead of 15 days, it might be between 14, or it might be, between, 14 and 16 days instead. Okay, and that allows, and that's important because say you're catching up a lot of old reps, you're going to fail a lot of cards, and you don't want them to pile up on the same day. So what we're doing is adding a small range to failed cards, and that range uses the default range that Anki uses, which means that um, the range gets bigger as the interval gets bigger. Or, for example, if the interval is only 1 day, there is no range. It's just 1 day. If it's 2 days, maybe it's only a 2 day range. It's only 2 days, two possible dates where it could be due, and it scales with the actual interval. So if the interval is higher, then the possible range is higher as well. So now that we're talking about ranges, that's how regular review cards are dealt with as well. So what Anki does actually is each card has a range that is actually, well, first it uses the previous due date and interval to calculate an exact date. Then a range is applied around that date, and after which, it's a range of possible due dates, and then after which that Anki will just choose a random date within that. So the add-on basically works by, instead of choosing a random date, it actually keeps tabs of all of the cards that have been scheduled on all of the possible dates within that range, and then picks the one with the lowest number of reps. Now, if there are multiple days with the same number of reps, what the algorithm will do is actually further separate the range into thirds. That being a beginning third, a middle third, and uh, a final third, and that's a third of the possible dates. And within that, it will prioritize first the middle third. So let's say, for example, if we have 6 possible due days, it would either be due, instead of 1 day from now or 2 days from now, say they all have the same number of possible, or they have the same number of reps due on each of the possible days, then it will be due on it will be due 3 days from now. Okay, because the middle of that 6 day range would be either 3 or 4 days from now, and then it prioritizes the middle range, so it'll be due, and then it starts at the beginning of the middle range, so it'll be due 3 days from now. And then after that, say the middle range has more due cards than either the beginning range or the latter range, then it's going to prioritize the latter range in order to minimize reviews, because it's still a valid, due date for that given card. Then it will be chosen. Then a due date from the latter range will be chosen. So if the 5th day, in this case it'd be the 5th day, or then again, if both the middle range and the latter range have more due cards, then the beginning range will be used, because that will, that's in order to avoid piling up of more reviews. Okay, guys. So yeah, that's pretty dense stuff. But what can you do? That is what it is. That is how it works. So I mean, there's even more. There's a bit more minutia there as well. But I think if you want to go into more minutia than that, you can be free to look at the code and see how it works for yourself. So, or you also feel free to ask me questions if if you have a particular question as well. Okay, now let's look at how this. Oh, actually, no, wait. Before that, before that, we should look at one factor that will impact that the calculation of when a card will be due, and that is the interval modifier, guys. Now, so let's first look here. Vacation settings, deck level. Okay, let's minimize that and go back to stats. And oh, it's already been okay. It's already been optimized, right? Okay, so let's take a look. The the current interval modifier applied to this deck is 140%, which means that instead of being given a 10-day range, it would be given a 14-day range, right? Or 14-day interval. Okay, now guys, in regular Anki, this interval modifier will not apply until your next rep. However, at the time that a rep takes place in Anki, the interval modifier is not, or the interval modifier at the time that that rep took place is not saved anywhere within Anki, which means that we cannot reference it in any way, which means that whenever you change this interval modifier, let's take a look. It's actually going to apply to the entire deck at once. Now, Matt and I talked about this, and we realized that this is actually not a negative thing. This actually can be rather positive, because as you're repping a deck, you'll find that, wow, you're having an easy time remembering it or a difficult time remembering it. You can see, then you can start thinking about whether you want to perhaps either raise or lower the interval modifier, which should affect your retention rate. Now, so if you weren't using the schedule optimizing feature, that means that would not apply until you rep each card again. So to transition your deck from an old interval modifier into a new interval modifier would actually take you ages, because you have to actually rep every single card once through. But what this does is actually make that change take effect on your entire deck at once, which means it should affect your retention rate in whichever way you desire right away, which will either lead you to have more reps or less reps. So let's take a look. So you can see that I adjusted the interval modifier to 100% instead of 140. So we should expect that we're going to see more reps, right? We're going to see more reps. And let's take a look. We do. We see a lot more reps, because suddenly a lot of these cards were going to be due. They're going to be due a lot earlier, right? So we can see a lot of reps have piled up. But let's say it was previously at 140%, right? So let's say we want to change it to 160%. Okay. Let's go ahead and optimize it now at 160% and see what happens. Now you can see that the cards for this deck that were due wouldn't have been due for another 10 days using the new so it's as if you had repped every card you had repped so far at 160, they would not have been due for another 10 days. So this is kind of a free way to take some days off too, guys. That shouldn't really impact your that shouldn't impact your retention rate any meaningful way outside of obviously learning if you've learned a lot of new cards. Then it might impact it, but it's yeah, it's worth being wary in that circumstance. But it will apply to your cards at the begin. Actually, new cards, I don't think it will apply to them in the same way. It will be much. It should be much less noticeable because it won't add to many days like it does if the interval if the if cards current intervals are already longer, which in this case they are. This deck has cards with longer intervals, so you can see like a substantial change when you adjust the interval modifier. So just be wary of that. It's applied right away, so perhaps it's better to go in small increments and see what kind of change that actually has on your retention. So for example, instead of 160, we can apply just 150 or 145, sorry, 145, and then see that it's much more reasonable. So you'll have cards starting in a day. It's a way to get a free day off for a particular deck or a particular. In this case, it's applied at the option groups level. So just be wary of that. We're gonna set it back to 140, just so that we can have cards that are due now, which will better serve the rest of this presentation. Yeah, optimize schedule. There we go. Gonna optimize it again. We can see we're back to what it was before. Were there cards due before today? Oh yeah, guys, I remember. There's another thing. If you have 0 cards due today, the add-on will never schedule you new cards due. So that's why now we are no longer getting cards due today, because the add-on will never schedule you cards if you had 0 cards due before, because that would be annoying, right? You have 0 cards due, and then now the add-on is giving you a new. Actually, it's I think if you have 0 cards, it will never give you cards for that particular deck again that day. Yeah, that's how it works. And I mean, there could be. I mean, I could see reasoning for perhaps a setting for that, and I thought it was if there were 0. Personally, I thought it was if there were 0 due cards today, and some cards had been studied. I'm actually going to look into that. I'm going to jot that down right now, guys, and look at that later, because that's actually worth thinking about. Okay, guys, I went ahead and wrote that down, so it's been noted. Yeah, so, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's why that's happening anyways. Okay, so let's take a look at the next section. So the next section that we want to take a look at is the vacation scheduler. So at any time we can schedule a vacation. Let's select all of the decks. We can schedule a new vacation, so we can take some time off of Anki while using the algorithm to, as best as possible, schedule our cards around that vacation within the scope of the algorithm. Okay, and it says that the review schedule will not be updated until we re-optimize. So let's go ahead and re-optimize. And then let's take a look at the schedule now. So we can see that in about 23 days we're going to start vacation. So that 5-day period. And we can see here in the long-term schedule. Oh yeah, I should probably note that the long-term schedule is added by this add-on, so that you can see further out what's happening each day. And whereas if you select 1 year here, it's per week, so you can't really see exactly what's happening. So that's why this is added here. And then you can also see how far back your reps were due and from when. Okay, and it goes up to a year forward, but it goes infinitely backwards. So if you have had reps due for a very long time, it will go ahead and show you how far back those reps go. Okay, guys, so you can see that it works very well. You can see that in this case, this deck, it's going to work particularly well for because every card probably has a pretty large range of possible due dates. So it's very easy to schedule cards around this 5-day gap. Now, what happens when you have a longer vacation is that it becomes more difficult to schedule cards around that gap. You'll find that more and more cards, due dates, all possible due dates for that card will fall within a vacation period. And if that happens, then a new algorithm is applied to it to grow that possible range of due dates until it finds a due date that is applicable, that is valid and is not a rest day. So that will happen by adding 3 days. It will loop and add 3 days outside of the current range on both sides of that range. So say if you had a range of just 2 days, 1, 2, now it would be, or say a card could be due with 4 days from now. Or actually, I think it applies. Yeah, it applies depending on how far out a card is due. So if a card is due, um, say 15 days from now, then the range applied will be 3 days on each side. If it's due closer, or if it's a learning card or a card that has been failed, then that range is only applied by 1 day on each side, and that range will grow until it finds a possible um, due date that is valid and is not within a review period, or not a review period. Sorry, it's not within a rest period. Okay, so let's take a look what actually happens if we made that vacation a lot bigger. So currently it's set to 131. Let's set it to 128 and re-optimize, and let's take a look. Now, that's when piling up will happen because way too many cards fall within this range, and there is nowhere for them to go. So you will see piling up in this instance when you have a very long vacation. But I think even though you see a lot of piling up, it's minimal compared to how many, the number of reps that would have taken place within the actual vacation period. So just be wary of that. Longer vacations will be less optimal, just considering that. I think it's kind of to be expected because it's kind of unavoidable. So there will be piling up when you have longer vacations, and it's much better than the piling up that would happen while you're on vacation. So I think hopefully everyone is okay with that. Okay, another thing that will happen is, say you schedule a vacation close to the current date. Now, that means that there aren't as many possible places for a card to go because the add-on will never schedule a card that is due either today or from today on. It will never schedule that card into the past. Okay, guys? So it will not schedule cards that are due today or that were due previous, or yeah, that are due from today on. They will not schedule them a date previous to today. And why that is and how that could possibly negatively affect the piling up of cards is that within a card's possible review date range or due date range, if that card lays at the very end of that possible due date range, say it could have been due from 5 to 10 days from now, and it's due 10 days from now, then that means that its effective range is going to be, once it's 10 days later, that card's effective range will only be 1 day. It will have to be due today, because all dates in the past become invalid for that given card, so that you don't see cards going backwards, right? We don't want that. So, which means that if there are more and more cards that have, that have fallen at the end of their review range, that's also going to affect how many cards can't escape to the other end of a vacation period. They're going to get stuck in between the beginning of the vacation and um, and the current date. So if it's shorter, there's much less room for optimization that happens there. So it's always recommended that you schedule vacations far out from the current date, so that the algorithm has time to flatten out those reviews, and you can get a lot of them done before the vacation actually happens. Okay, I hope that's kind of understandable. It's kind of, I mean, I'm trying to explain it in a way that's easily understandable, but it's quite complicated. So it's kind of difficult to, and I'm probably failing miserably at it. But hopefully, you guys get a general idea of what I'm talking about. But if I can show you, that will probably help. So let's say we're going to schedule a vacation, just starting Sunday, and only for maybe, let's say it's going to be for maybe just a week, and let's save that. Okay, and then let's go ahead and optimize the schedule. Now we're going to see that cards have piled up. As I said, they will. They're going to pile up. It's going to be much better than doing all those reps during that time, because they would have piled up even worse. But they're going to pile up, and some of them are going to make it to the other end, the other side of the vacation. But simply, if you schedule it too late, that the algorithm was never applied to these cards. So, for example, if the vacation had been here, it would have applied the algorithm to these cards in such a way that you would have done more cards leading up. You would have done, slightly more cards leading up to the vacation, which wouldn't lead to piling up. But since in this case, we've scheduled a vacation right away, there's there's nothing that can really be done, so cards will pile up before that vacation. So just be aware of that and try to schedule your vacations well ahead of time, because that will definitely benefit you. So now, another thing that we can look at is, actually, I should re-import this deck. Let me go ahead and re-import this deck, because that's the best way for me to show you this. I'm going to re-import the deck before I did all of those things, because I want to show you what happens. Okay, I have re-imported it. Okay, so I have to go ahead and disable these, or not disable. I have to unsuspend some cards so that we can see what's going on here. Okay, here we go. Okay, we're gonna unsuspend cards that are due from today on again. Okay, now remember, this deck has not yet been optimized. Oops, I have to actually select this deck. Okay, guys, so we can see this deck has not actually been optimized. So let me show you what happens when we should still have that vacation scheduled. Oh, and it's very important to note that vacations are scheduled at the profile level. You can't actually see other vacations that are scheduled um, for other profiles within your current profile. You have to actually change it to the other profile to see vacations that are scheduled for that particular profile. Okay, so just note that you will not see this vacation schedule when you open up another profile. This vacation is only for this profile and is only displayed for this particular profile. If you want to oh no, yeah, if you want to have a profile wide vacation, you have to set up a vacation for each profile. Another important point is that vacations, once they are passed, it will the add-on will automatically delete them. So any vacation that is in the past, they will be deleted. So once a vacation has passed, it will be automatically deleted. Okay, so now let's take a look at what happens if we go to optimize our vacation settings and then optimization settings, the balance daily review count. We turn that to off, yet we still have a vacation scheduled. Let's look at what happens. So what happens is that they are not, and remember, this is just for this deck, so it's not, see, if you see for the other deck, we have even more do cards, even more cards due. Because what happens is they are simply only moved out of the way if um, if they actually fall within, if a due date for a given card actually falls within a scheduled rest period. So you can see that here. Okay, they are only moved out away from that period. Okay, okay, what's next, guys? Sorry, I'm so slow, guys. I'm not feeling that well right now. But okay, let's continue. So now that you've seen that, let's look at the actual weekend feature. But first, I'm gonna re-optimize with with I'm gonna re-optimize with optimization turned on. With a daily rep balancing turned on. And actually, let's move this vacation back. Let's move it back. Maybe. Oops. I have to select. Oh, I see. I have to make this out further. Yeah, we'll make it from the 31st. Maybe we'll do a week from the 24th. That sounds pretty good. Okay, we're going to go ahead and save that. Okay. And then we're going to re-optimize one more time. And now let's take a look at the next feature, which is our review schedule. So say we want to take Saturdays and Sundays off, and this is per option group, so make sure each deck is set to what you want it to be set to. And then we're going to go ahead and simply re-optimize. The same algorithm that takes place for big vacation takes place for weekends as well, guys. So it's the same thing, just applied to each weekend. So let's go ahead and optimize the schedule. And we can see that we can take off weekends just for this deck, right? This deck, we've taken off Saturday and Sunday. This deck, we have not. Of course, we can change it so that we take off those days as well for this particular deck, and then re-optimize. And then we can see that now we have those days completely off. Obviously, your rep counts are going to be slightly higher on the days that you do review. That is to be expected. Because you're reviewing less days, you should have more reps, and in fact you do. Okay, and for example, of course, we could just take Wednesday and Sunday off. I think it throws an error currently if you have 0 days scheduled. So yeah, just be wary of that. I don't know if it does or not because I don't remember, but it might. I think I may have never checked for that, so just be wary if it does. Pragmatically speaking, no one's going to do that, so it should be okay. Okay, let's go ahead and reschedule it now. So we're going to take Wednesdays and I think Sundays off, was it? And you can see instead you can make whatever kind of schedule you want. Now, something to note here, guys, is if before a vacation you have a weekend that falls like right before vacation, you may see some piling up that will happen. And that is just simply due to your, further increasing, the length of the vacation, so to speak, so that there are less possible destinations, if we want to call it, destination dates for, those cards. So just be wary of that. Okay, and that's pretty much it for this feature. Now, the other features are a little bit different than these particular features. Let's take a look here, actually. Let's change it back to just 1 day off per week. We'll just take off Sundays. For both of these, I think it will be more easy to see if there aren't so many changes. And we're going to go ahead and cancel the vacation. Actually, we will keep the vacation. Okay, guys, so let's take a look here. Say we got sick today suddenly, and we wanted to take a day off. We had to, we just could not avoid taking a day off. First, let's re-optimize with the new settings, with the new things. Remember, guys, you have to run this at least once a day. because it's not updated each time you rep a card. It's not updated till you run this, and then it checks the last rep and will update according to that, to the information available for that last rep. Okay, guys. So let's say we wanted to just suddenly take today off. If you click a given deck, you can see that now we have some new buttons here. We have sick day and we have catch up. For now, ignore catch up. Let's hit the sick day button, and it says this will move all reviews for the Groove deck back by 1 day and then re-optimize the scheduling. Are you sure you would like to take a sick day? Now, what this does, guys, is just move every card back in your whole collection, entire collection. Yeah, that's right, back by a single day. It's like as if today never happened, and then it re-optimizes it. So then again, it does its best to sort the days to give you the least amount of reps. Okay, so let's take a look. It's going to go ahead and do that, and then we can click the deck, and we can see that everything has been moved back a day, and it will ignore vacation periods and be moved to the next day outside of a vacation period. Okay, guys? So the cards that were previously due today are now due this given day. Okay, but then they're also re-optimized around it to make it as even as possible again. Okay, so let's go ahead and undo this sick day. So you can see that that was applied to just that deck, but now we can do a sick day for all decks, and we can see that we will have no cards due today. We can see here as well. Okay, it will move them all back by 1 and then re-optimize it, making it as even as possible for you. Okay, now guys, this is not ideal. This is not the best way to take a sick day, because eventually if you use it often, then cards that are here are going to always be moving back, and maybe by the time you see them, they'll have like a substantially higher interval than they otherwise would have been. So really use it when you're sick, and you should be fine. And I mean, if you really have to use it, it's better to use this than get behind on your reps and basically lose the benefit of using something like an SRS because you become frustrated with getting behind on your reps, right? So it's always better to use this than getting behind on your reps, in my opinion. If you're not going to rep anyways, just take a sick day and just start the next time it's available. But it's much better, guys, to just have scheduled weekends. So try to schedule days off, and I guess the sick day feature is a completely different feature than that anyways, because it's about if you literally just, life happens, you can't do it, take a sick day, and you should be good to go. Okay, the next thing to show you, and is it the last? Oh, it's the last thing besides one other final thing about a potential conflict with the retirement add-on, which I'll go into. Okay, guys. So next is. Okay, let's take a look. Okay, so the next thing is the catch-up feature. Now, just to make this as easy to understand as possible, I'm going to unsuspend all cards, and I'm going to then resuspend all cards that are due after today, so we can clearly see what happens. Okay, I'm going to press Control J, suspend all of those, and now let's go into the browse, or not the browser, sorry, the stats, and we can see that this is going 70 days back. You see, guys, 80 days probably. You can see all the cards that were due until today. Okay, so those are the cards that are due until today, and then of course there are 12 cards due today as well, as you can see here. Or no, these aren't today. Oh, that's for the collection. That's why. Yeah. 40 cards due today. Yeah, you can see 40 cards are due today. Okay, guys. So what we can do is we see that we've gotten really behind. We have over 1,000 cards due. It's awful. So now we have a catch-up feature. We can use it on one particular deck because, say for example, we're still caught up on our kanji deck, but we're so behind on our groove deck. I think this is another language. I don't know exactly what it means. But anyways, we're so behind on this deck, so we want to catch up. We can click the catch-up button. This is the deck level catch-up feature, and we can set, perhaps, say we want to catch it up slowly over 100 days and just get back on track with this deck slowly. Now we can select whether to schedule cards today or start scheduling cards from tomorrow. Let's say we want to start catching up today. We're going to go ahead and schedule some cards today as well. And we're going to hit confirm. And then let's hit the deck button and see what has happened. So now we have 17 cards due each day for this deck. Of course, there are some cards due today in the other deck. That's why you're seeing this. But you can see that they go out. They ignore our vacations. Our rest periods. It's probably a better way to refer to it. They ignore weekends and rest periods, and they go out into the future. Now, guys, there is an important thing to note about how this particular feature works. Now, these cards have essentially had their intervals bastardized, right? They have their due dates. Not their actually their intervals are honored. They're given the same boost. Their intervals are given the same boost that they would have, that Anki would have given them if they had fallen on this date. So you're actually getting the same default boost if you had selected good and the card had been due today instead of when it was originally due. Okay, guys? So just know that. But essentially, Anki has no way to know that these cards have have been altered in this way, or it has no way. Anki has no way of recording that. So there is no way that the optimization feature would know that. So what happens is in your media folder, whenever you use the catch-up feature, a file called, let's see what it's called here. It's called, let me see. Let me sort by date modified here. Hold on one moment. I'm actually looking. I forget what it's called. It's been a moment since I wrote this part of the add-on, so let's see. It's called something like underscore sick day IDs, and I'm gonna actually show you what that file looks like as well. At least I intend to. Okay, yeah. One moment. Oh yeah, I found it. Yeah, it's called MIA Sick Day IDs, starting with an underscore. Okay, guys. So let me show you here what this file essentially is. This file essentially is a record of the ID of all of the cards and their unique code and the number of reps that they had. So each card has, or each note has a unique code. So we take that unique code, so the unique note identifier. We take the actual card ID, and then we take the number of reps that that card had at the moment the catch-up feature was used. So this information is used so that every time you optimize, it checks the given card's ID and checks if it actually occurs within the MIA sick day IDs .json. And this file is just called sick day because previously this feature was labeled sick day, but we changed it later to catch up. But since this is just a background file, we've kept and by we, maybe in this case, it was just me. But yeah, just kept the name the same. Okay. So, anyways, what should I say here? So yeah, anyways, it keeps a record and it checks if if the card with this given ID the note matches, because sometimes cards may have conflicting. I mean, it shouldn't happen. They may have conflicting IDs if you import it again. But so we just, to be safe, this is the way it's done. There are various reasons. I'm not going to go into detail because most people won't care about it. But anyways, and then it checks if. So the next time you optimize, it will check if the rep count is the same. If the rep count has increased, that means you've already repped it again, and it will be, this entry will be removed, for example. Okay, so it will no longer be here. It will be removed like that, for instance. Okay, so as you rep the cards, they will be removed from this list, and regular optimization will be applied again. But what happens at the current moment? Say we change our vacation period. What happens at the current moment? We're going to change our vacation period to Let's say, oh yeah, we should always change the ladder date if you're changing it to be further out. Change it first. When did I make it? Oh, 3/18. Well, that's too far out. Let's make it in February at least. Make it like February 2nd to February 8th instead. I'm going to save it. And then we're going to go ahead and re-optimize. And let's take a look. Now, what happens is that, are there two did I schedule two vacations? What happened? Um, oh yeah, so the way this I see why this happens because I've changed the vacation. Now these cards are not re-optimized, guys. Yeah, that makes sense. They are simply moved out of the way of the new rest day. So they will actually pile up when you reschedule them if you're changing around your vacations, for instance. This is the same as the interval being off, or not the interval. Sorry, the optimizing or the load balancing being off. This is the same thing as that. Okay, guys. So it's the same as off for those cards, because let me show you what happens if you don't have the sick day IDs. I'm going to delete the sick day IDs from my media folder. I've done that, and I'm going to re-optimize. Okay, guys. So essentially, as you see, it just piles the cards up because it has no reference that those cards shouldn't be rescheduled according to the other given rules. But I've just thought, as you guys saw, currently cards that have been scheduled for catch up are just given or they're only moved out of the way of rest days or vacations. But what I'm actually going to do in the next patch, I'm going to make it so that instead of just moving them according to the algorithm with daily balancing off, I'm going to instead grab all of those cards, all of those cards by their IDs, and I'm going to instead relay them out. If you guys kind of understand, I'll lay them out again as they were laid out at the beginning of, or when you originally scheduled a catch up. So that way, they will never interfere with that. They will just go around it. They will go around any vacations. That's what I'm going to do in the next batch, so look out for that. Maybe I'll release a little video when that happens as well. Okay, so lastly, I want to just cover an issue that happens when you have the retirement add-on installed. So actually, let me install that because currently it's not. So I can talk about what happens as I do it as well. So what basically happens is that the retirement add-on, as you guys know, it will actually delete cards, or it could delete cards. If you have it set to delete cards, those cards are no longer shown as, yeah, if you have it set to either delete cards or to move them to a different deck, those the the origin deck where that rep took place is lost. So we have no idea where that rep took place for that given card, and because of that, what happens is that I just thought of an idea of saving the rep. I have an idea of an update that I could perhaps make to the retirement add-on so that we would save the ID of the rep, or like of the, like where that rep took place in the day. I think it's probably not worth it and beyond the scope of the retirement add-on, to be honest. But anyways, sorry for the rambling, guys. It's getting a bit long now, and I'm losing composure. Not that I had it to begin with. So anyways, what happens is that because that origin deck is lost, we can no longer apply deck level optimization accurately if for example you're repping on mobile. What happens is you're going to rep on mobile, and unless your reps go down to 0, so say you have a given deck A, you rep 20 cards on mobile, you have 3 cards left, Then you get onto the desktop, and you have and then you run the mass retirement feature, and those cards that you repped are moved into another, or moved into your retirement deck, or say they're deleted. Then you lose the origin of those decks, and it's impossible for me, for the add-on to know where those cards were repped. So we can no longer use it to adjust the number of reps to schedule on the given, on today. That when today would be. It's very man, it's so hard to explain this stuff. Failing pretty badly at it, guys. But anyways, so due to that, there is a warning that pops up that tells you to. Whoops, let me go into view files. Alright, I'm going to install it now, and then you guys can see it. What it does is it's going to tell you to which one is the retirement add-on? Is it this one? No, not this one. Hold on one more. Oh, it's this one. Okay, what it's going to tell you is to finish your reps, basically. It's going to tell you, if you don't finish your reps for the day, and you have the retirement add-on, that given number of cards that were retired that given day for a particular deck may be rescheduled by the optimizer. So, for example, say you study 20 cards today, 5 were, and then 5 of those were retired. When you rerun the algorithm, if you haven't finished your reps, say you rep just 5 cards, then they are all retired, and then you rerun the algorithm, it may give you another 5 cards, so you may be back up to 20, because those retired cards are kind of invisible. You can't see where the rep took place, so you can't have deck level balancing. I mean, it's kind of difficult to explain, but there's no. I mean, that's what is happening, guys. So I'm trying to explain it in a way that everyone will understand, but I think it's kind of. Not everyone is going to understand it. It's kind of. Yeah, it's kind of convoluted. You kind of have to understand how Anki works, and then in detail how the add-on works and other add-ons work in order to know it. But generally, just know that there is a possible conflict that happens. Okay, I've installed it now. So what happens is, let's go into the retirement retirement settings, and let's make it so that it runs on startup every time. And let's also make it so that the vacation settings, or that the vacation add-on runs on startup every time. And let me re-enter the profile. Hold on one moment. Let me go ahead and reload it. Now it's going to run those. Okay, 16 cards have been removed, and you can see that optimization happened at the same time. So you can do undo, schedule optimization, and retirement at the same time. They are combined because they have to be run in the correct order. And that is that optimization has to be done before retirement is done, so that it is all done correctly, guys. Okay, so before any cards that you repped on mobile are retired, they have to first be optimized, so that or the actual deck has to first be optimized so that we can see where those cards came from, and not schedule that given number of cards. A good way to explain it is that today it will look like, say normally you have 20 days, and then you've repped your cards down to 10 days, or to 10 reps for today, and 10 of those reps, and the 10 reps that you did were all retired. Well, now from the add-on's perspective, since it can't know if those cards were retired and moved to a different deck or deleted, it can't know that you've already done 10 reps. It will just look like, for some arbitrary reason, that today has 10 reps, whereas the other days have 20 reps. They have more reps. So it's going to instead move some reps into today. So it's important that they are run together. So if both add-ons are installed, they will be run together if they're set to run. They'll be run together. And then another thing, if you've started reps and you have the add-on and you have the retirement add-on um, installed, when you go to try to run it, you're going to see a warning. And I'm actually going to read it. You have not yet finished your reps and you have the MIA retirement add-on installed. Due to how Anki stores card rep information, the optimization algorithm may schedule extra reviews today in proportion to how many cards were retired during your review session. It is recommended that you finish your reviews before re-optimizing your schedule if you wish to avoid these potential extra reviews. Would you like to execute the optimization algorithm? And you can, and you may get more reps today under the circumstances that you already retired quite a number of cards. Okay, but if you didn't, it's never going to be that big of a change, but there is a conflict there, and it should be stated. And if you're repping on mobile, it should be fine because if you make sure that um, you that optimization happens first, which automatically happens, they will be run together, and optimization will be run first, and then mass retirement will be run. So as long as optimization is run first, even if you rep on mobile, the conflict will not happen. And if you're repping on desktop, it's going to warn you to make sure to finish your reps before you optimize, if you're going to optimize again. But if you're optimizing at the beginning anyways, like if you're optimizing um, before you do your reps, which is recommended, just optimize before you do your reps each day, then you're not going to even have this issue either. But it's just something that I should touch on. Sorry, I went way too in depth with it and did a terrible job at explaining that. Well, that is unfortunate. But sorry about the quality of this video, guys. I don't have time to sit down and write out a, very particular guide going to every detail. But once this is out once this add-on, or not once, it should be when this add-on is going to come out publicly, Matt and I are going to sit down and actually do that in detail. But right now, that's going to take many hours to try to find language to explain this. So for now, I hope this, at least somewhat explains what this add-on's all about. Please go ahead and leave me any questions on Discord if you have some, or, feel free to have a discussion about it, or if you have any ideas of how we can improve how this works, etc. Like, for example, I definitely have the idea of improving how the catch-up feature works. I'm actually going to code that up for you guys probably sometime next week, and then the catch-up feature will be much better. I just thought of, can't believe I didn't think to do that before, but kind of hustling to get this out to you guys by Christmas, so that's probably likely why I didn't. Well, thank you so much. Sorry, this video is probably like something like 2.5 hours. It's not 2.5 hours, but it's pretty long. So, if you make it this far, let me know in the comments below. Actually, if you actually make it through this far, let me know, because that means you're pretty interested in knowing the tools you're working with. That's pretty cool. All right, guys. Oh, my throat hurts even worse than it did before I started this now. All right, so cheers. Good luck. Let me know if you have any questions or suggestions. Bye-bye.